The lambs that were to be sacrificed during Passover were to be without spot or blemish. John chapter 1 verse 29, regarding Jesus, John says, "Behold, the Lamb of God, who takes away the sin of the world." Also, a second time, John declares Jesus as the Lamb of God in John chapter 1 verse 36. 1 Peter chapter 1 verse 18 says, "You know that you were redeemed from the futile way of life handed down from your ancestors, not with perishable things such as silver or gold, but with precious blood like that of a lamb without defect or spot, the blood of Messiah. He was chosen before the foundation of the world, but was revealed in these last times for your sake." 1 Corinthians chapter 5 verse 7 goes on to say, "Cleanse out the old leaven, that you may be a new lump, as you really are unleavened, for Christ, our Passover lamb, has been sacrificed." As you can see, Jesus was identified as our Passover lamb. Next, we will look at the inspection of Jesus as our Passover lamb. Inspection number 1. John chapter 18 verse 13 says, "First they took him to Annas, the father-in-law of Caiaphas, the high priest at the time." John chapter 18 verses 19 to 23 says, "Inside, the high priest began asking Jesus about his followers and what he had been teaching them. Jesus replied, 'Everyone knows what I teach. I have preached regularly in the synagogues and the temple, where the people gather. I have not spoken in secret. Why are you asking me this question? Ask those who heard me. They know what I said.' Then one of the temple guards standing nearby slapped Jesus across the face. 'Is that the way to answer the high priest?' he demanded. Jesus replied, 'If I said anything wrong, you must prove it. But if I'm speaking the truth, why are you beating me?' Verse 24 goes on to say, "Then Annas bound Jesus and sent him to Caiaphas, the high priest." Inspection number 2. Matthew chapter 26 verses 59 and 60 says, "Now the chief priest and the whole council were seeking false testimony against Jesus that they might put him to death, but they found none, though many false witnesses came forward." Matthew chapter 27 verses 1 and 2 says, "When morning came, all the chief priests and the elders of the people took counsel against Jesus to put him to death. And they bound him and led him away and delivered him over to Pilate, the governor." Inspection number 3. Luke chapter 23 verse 4. "Then Pilate said to the chief priest and the crowds, 'I find no guilt in this man.'" Luke chapter 23 verse 7 says, "And when he learned that he belonged to Herod's jurisdiction, he sent him over to Herod, who was himself in Jerusalem at the time." Inspection number 4. Luke chapter 23 verses 8 through 11 says, "When Herod saw Jesus, he was very glad, for he had long desired to see him, because he had heard about him, and he was hoping to see some sign done by him. So he questioned him at some length, but he made no answer. The chief priest and the scribes stood by, vehemently accusing him. And Herod with his soldiers treated him with contempt and mocked him. Then, arraying him in splendid clothing, he sent him back to Pilate." Inspection number 5. Luke chapter 23 verses 13 through 15 says, "Pilate then called together the chief priests and the rulers and the people, and said to them, 'You brought me this man as one who is misleading the people, and after examining him before you, behold, I did not find this man guilty of any of your charges against him. Neither did Herod, for he sent him back to us. Look, nothing deserving death has been done by him.'" Inspection number 6. Matthew chapter 27 verses 3 and 4 says, "Then when Judas, his betrayer, saw that Jesus was condemned, he changed his mind and brought back the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and the elders, saying, 'I have sinned by betraying innocent blood.' They said, 'What is that to us? See to it yourself.'" Inspection number 7. Referring to the thief on the cross hanging next to Jesus, Luke chapter 23 verses 40 and 41 says, "But the other rebuked him, saying, 'Do you not fear God, since you are under the same sentence of condemnation? And we indeed justly, for we are receiving the due reward of our deeds, but this man has done nothing wrong.'" Inspection number 8. Matthew chapter 27 verse 54 says, "When the centurion and those who were with him keeping watch over Jesus saw the earthquake and what took place, they were filled with awe and said, 'Truly, this was the Son of God.'" They all found him to be blameless, without blemish. Herod, Pilate, the Sanhedrin, Judas, the thief on the cross. Yet on the 14th of Nisan at 9 a.m. in the morning, as the animal Passover lambs were being brought into the temple to be slain, our perfect Passover lamb, Jesus, was nailed to a wooden cross. At 3 p.m., as the last animal Passover lamb was killed by the high priest in the temple, Jesus cried out on the cross, "It is finished," and he gave up his spirit.